right, let's rock and roll. So we're back at it again, and today I want to. Well, actually, before I jump right in, how are you doing?
Yeah,
What's new?
yeah, yeah. Good. I'm patiently I'm patiently watching the clock while we're recording because I have dough rising that's going to be done in 28 minutes for me to go roll out some cinnamon rolls. So I'm trying a new recipe today. Um, so we'll see. It's always a risk.
Hmm.
Remember that Seinfeld episode with Banya and the soup at Mindy's? Do I get the soup? I know it's going to be good, or do I get something else that I've never had before? I
You know,
could
that's
get
a real
something really
conundrum.
good. That's right. It's like I get it. You go with the soup. It's the same old thing, but it's good. Or you could go with something else. Could be good, but it'll come. It's a risk. I get it.
I think of that episode all the time. Like when we go out to get like ice cream or something like that. I'm like, I can go with my normal standby. I know I'm gonna like chocolate and peanut butter. I know it. But do I branch out and try something different? Like that's a real conundrum.
It really is. So, I took the risk today, and I'm trying a brand new cinnamon roll recipe. So
All right. Well, you're gonna have to update me afterward.
I will for sure.
How it comes out. So in that case, since we've got 25 minutes, let's
Not
dive.
not to
in.
put pressure on the clock here.
No. Let's dive in because I want to wrap up the theme that we've been going with the last couple of weeks: the boring yet profitable businesses. And for how we got to this point, if anyone hasn't listened to it yet, go back and listen to the last couple. Because today I want to put a bow on it and want to talk about what digital analytics can learn from those types of businesses. Or specifically, what about those businesses that try to be everything to everyone? Because to really summarize the last three episodes, a couple things we came to when talking about those businesses that could be seen as boring yet profitable is they have a great experience. They focus on their customers. They don't chase the latest fad. They stick to the core business. They become integral to their customers that way. And they also, with focusing on their customers, they know who their core customer is. They don't try to do everything. They don't try to offer every kind of product. They say, this is our customer base. We're going to focus on that. And that makes, you may say that's boring. You're not reaching out. You're not branching out, but it's profitable. Customers like coming back to that business that's focused on the products that they've been known to deliver. So let's talk about how analytics can learn from that, because we've all experienced this kind of scenario. A new company arrives on the market with a product that is highly functional and it meets our needs phenomenally. The product is well designed, it's of high quality, the care and focus of the manufacturer is obvious. The company gains a good foothold in the market and then decides to start adding more to its product line. And it tries to diversify, but it spreads itself way too thin and starts offering either a product that has all of these features it didn't need before, or a whole product line that the focus of the initial business is lost. So the company moves beyond its core business, its core customer base, and the quality drops. Have you come across something like that? I mean, I know I have. I think we all have. But, is there something that comes to mind when I describe that scenario?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is just not having an identity as a business or as an analytics team. And a lot of times when you don't have an identity or you don't know what it is that you're doing, it's easy to get caught up in those hype cycles and easy to get caught up in just creating more things. And we need to do that. We need to be involved in that. We need to add AI. We need to add blockchain. Because we don't know who we are. It's so easy to do that. And you take already an organization that lacks identity and then you make it completely unrecognizable to the point where it's like, I don't even know what we're doing here. And I think a lot of analytics teams get caught up in that. They don't know who they are. They don't know what their role is in the organization. So what happens? They get caught up in buying software, buying solutions, buying more and more stuff, like just adding more and more stuff to their quote unquote product offering because it kind of shows activity. It shows momentum. Like we're doing things, we're collecting all this stuff. But ultimately, it rarely turns into business value for the customers, and so I think a huge part of that again is not knowing who they are and what their role is in the organization. And it seems so simple, right? Like it's like, of course but we've talked with analytics teams in the past where we've asked them things not about their role, but we've asked them things like, well, why does your company have a website? Like seemingly in simple questions to answer, and they're like, oh, well, geez, I don't know. We've never thought about that. It's like, what? And the same thing here. It's like, well, why does the analytics team exist? Well, we give people data. No, that's not a like. Why are you? What are you solving for? Why do you exist? They haven't put the thought into even answering that most basic question.
Yeah, I mean that's really getting to the root of it really quickly. But you're right. It's the not having an identity. And so today I had an opportunity to speak to a former client of ours. They've had some turnover with the team since we've been there, and some of the new folks are like, "Hey, we've worked with you in the past. Can we just pick your brain on a couple things that we're hearing?" And it actually gave me an opportunity to jump up on my soapbox about implementation. Because they're getting pitched left and right, and they're like, "We would just love 30 minutes to tell you, to tell us like, what are you seeing when it comes to this?" And I told him, I said, here's the one thing when it comes to a lot of these platforms. Implementation is a cheap way of showing value. It is. It's we're building this, we're rebuilding that. We're making movement. It's going to be better when we're done. But it leads to that vicious cycle. So to your point, if the team doesn't know why they exist, if they don't understand why the company exists and the clients that they serve, the customers that they serve, it's easy to get stuck in all of those different cycles of, well, I think I share data, or yeah, we got to buy this new tool because we think we have to. Someone's telling us we're missing out if we don't have this.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And again, it all it all comes down to this lack of understanding our role. And I think you see this not only within organizations, but you see this broadly in the analytics industry. Like, what do we talk about all the time? We talk about the tools, we talk about the implementation, we talk about all the nuance around the technical pieces, and very rarely do we talk about, but why? Like, literally, what are we doing with this stuff? And so I think it's a big problem, both industry-wide and within analytics teams. And really the solution to it is to start with that question, like, why do we exist? What are we solving for? Is our role to help the business answer questions more quickly? Is our role to make teams smarter? I mean, there's lots of, I think, really, really good answers, but we need to sit down and have that conversation with ourselves to understand why we exist. And oftentimes, I think the answer comes down to we exist as a foundational piece to a lot of high performance teams and companies, but that takes us being okay not out in front, out in the lead. And it's interesting we're having this conversation today because I was talking with a friend about this idea a couple days ago, not related to analytics, but just the fact that there are companies that know their purpose and who they are, and they're so insanely profitable and really good at what they do and successful, but you and I have never heard of them. But they're responsible, at least in part, for some of the things that we use every day. And so if you think about these companies that, build the infrastructure, the factory floors, the key tools, the key ingredients that go into making something, you've never heard of these companies, but, they're making the core components that go into products that we use every day. And they don't care that we don't know of them, because the manufacturers that are buying their components know of them and are relying on them to deliver high quality components to build their products. And I really think that is something that we should be thinking about as analytics teams. Like, it doesn't matter if we're not seen as the superstars of the organization, but if we're providing the key components that helps the product team put out high quality products, if we're a key component into marketing teams running highly efficient marketing programs, who cares? Because those guys are going to keep us in business because we're supplying critical parts to the things that they're creating for the company that makes the company successful.
Yeah. You touched on two key pieces with that. Those companies know their customers. They don't need to be well known. To your right, to your point, like those companies, they don't care that we don't know who they are.
Right.
It makes no difference if we know who they are or not. It makes a difference if their core customers
That's right.
know who they are. So they make sure that their core customers know who they are. They are laser focused. They're not just doing this spray and pray campaign awareness kind of approach. But two, it's their focus is on the product. Their focus is on the output. So they're not going to chase the latest fad like we talked about in the last episode. They're not going to chase the latest fad. They're going to keep up on new standards, new manufacturing processes. They're going to keep up on new materials or new things that could help them. But they're not going to chase the latest fad. Like, we need to quick switch over to this. We need to change this piece of our product. They're going to evaluate it and make sure that it does what they need it to do, and it's going to deliver a high quality product to their customers.
Yep.
And that's what, many digital analytics organizations are missing out on. They're chasing the latest tool. They're pigeonholing themselves to tools. We've talked about it before. How many times have we come across a prospect or a client and their team is the Adobe team, the Google team, the site spec team, they're tied to vendors. And that's one of the folks I was talking to earlier today. I'm like, I'm vendor agnostic. Yes, I have more experience with some vendors more than others, but I'm not here to tout one vendor over another. If anything, I try to avoid that, at all possible.
Yeah, and the key word you said there is creating quality components and products to your customer. They don't really care. It's not any of their interest of what your infrastructure looks like and how you create that product. What they care about is they're receiving a high quality product when they need to receive it for what they're trying to do. And we've kind of gotten that backwards as an analytics industry, is that we want our customers to know of like all these cool things that we're doing. It's like, oh, well, we just, got this new CDP and, we're doing this really cool thing with this new server side implementation. Your internal customers don't care. It really is no concern to them. What they care about is, what are you producing for me with whatever it is that you're buying? Whatever you do, that's your world. You don't need to expose, like the saying, you don't need to tell me how you're making the sausage.
I was going to use that.
I just want a high quality product so I can build a better product, so we can have a better website, so we can have more efficient marketing campaigns, so the experiences we're creating for our customers are more personalized and cohesive. How you do that, that's your expertise. But like, let's stop making that our identity, right? Like, our identity is not those pieces. Like, that's the tools of our job. Our identity should be around incredible passion for creating data products for our clients to use to do what they're creating better. We should be seen as producing highly sought after, high quality ingredients for our customers. Kind of using the chef restaurant analogy, we if we're producing beef, or we're producing vegetables, whatever it is that we're supplying to restaurants, we want restaurants coming to us because they want the highest quality beef, they want the highest quality lettuce, because they are going to use those ingredients and transform them into something amazing they're going to sell to their customers. They're not coming to us and saying, well, can you talk to us about like the feeding machines and your watering? Yeah, let me tell you about the irrigation system. Like, they want to hear about the quality ingredient that they're going to buy to go into their product.
Yeah. And this speaks to the bigger problems we've talked about for years now, the concept of analytics not being at the adult table, because we do exactly that. We talk about implementation methodologies. We talk about vendors. We talk about optimization methodologies. We talk about all of those pieces instead of it's the Apple marketing slogan. If you go back slogans back to the Steve Jobs days, how did they pitch an iPod when they first made it?
Right.
Because you got to remember,
Was
people
it the 10,000 songs, 8,000?
bingo the 10,000 songs in your pocket. Because I'm going to be the old get off my lawn guy at this point, because the iPod came out, God, 20 plus years ago at this point. And some people may forget that the iPod wasn't the first or even the second MP3 player on the market. There were plenty of others, but they were clunky. There was no unified way, smooth way, cohesive way of moving music from your computer onto it. They were really clunky and they weren't taking off. It was the iPod. And they didn't talk about the transfer speed. They didn't talk about, how fast you could get your music over. They didn't talk about the storage size. They weren't talking in gigabytes. They weren't talking in this or that. It was hey, this device, you can carry around 10,000 songs in your pocket. And that's where it got away from all of the details.
And all of their competitors, like us as digital analysts, were talking about the capacity and the technology in it. And like Apple didn't. They're like, we're going to give you 10,000 songs in your pocket. And that won, right? And I think that's a great example that you bring up. And I think it's been used in lots of places, but it's very fitting for the analytics world. We want to talk about like all the components that make our MP3 player the best, and all the technology and how hard it was to put together, and how those little soldering joints were really tough, but we figured it out. The customer doesn't care. They don't care. They want to know, am I going to be able to put 10,000 songs in my pocket? That's what they care about. And so I know we get excited about it. And we have forums for this. We have online forums. We have industry conferences. We have places for us to talk about those things that get us really, really excited. But within our businesses and the interaction with the customers we're supporting is not the place to do that yet. It's what we do every day, day in and day out.
We go to our VPs and we talk in terms like this. We start to get all nerdy and geek out over it. And I'm thinking of a conversation with another client I had last evening. And this is a type of engagement where parts of it are nebulous. And we're working with teams that are measured on Jira card output and tickets completed. So it's what we're doing, and our output is completely different from the way the organization looks at these teams. And I was talking with our stakeholder about how can we show progress to his VP, because he knows what we're working on. He knows the value of it. It's how can he communicate that out in terms that a VP is going to pick up on it without getting into the weeds? Because I think he realizes too, if he were to get into the weeds on some of the things that we're doing and what we're building, it's going to lose all value. It's going to go right over to whoop, like the eyes are going to gloss over.
Yeah, really. And again, I think this is such a great parallel and analogy for this trap that we just seem to really be struggling to find our way out of. And it's this, and maybe it's like, maybe it's a comfort thing, but I'm going to go back to how we started this conversation. I think it's a lack of purpose thing. It's a lack of understanding of what our role truly is. And because we haven't defined that role, it's like all the other MP3 manufacturers. Their role was to like build a piece of technology, and they focused on all the technical wizardry and know-how and the hardware, and that's what they focused on and talked about. But Apple had a role. They had a purpose. We want to make it a really great experience for people to put digital music in their pocket. And I think, again, the parallels there. We don't know what our role is as a digital analytics team. And so our role becomes about, well, it's about the technology. It's about like how, building this really cool, complicated, technical thing. And our competitors are saying, okay, let them kind of do that. What we're going to do is we're going to empower you by putting some data in your pocket that's going to allow you to create the most amazing product ever. Yeah, I want to go buy from that guy.
Yeah. And Yeah, that's all I can think about is we get into the weeds with the tools. We get way too weedsy, and we get pushed back to the basement. And instead of getting right to the point, and yeah, I think it is. It's rooted in not knowing what the purpose is. So if we're a digital analytics team, and our purpose is that we're to drive insights that help the business, we're not going to talk about how we got to it. We're going to talk about what the insights are and what it means to the business and what the business could possibly learn.
And doesn't putting the time into having clarity on that purpose solve so many of the problems that we've been talking about around, buying tools that we don't need, being stuck in these implementation cycles, managing our value to the number of Jira tickets we close. Like, if we know our purpose, I think a lot of those things take care of themselves, because it's an easy conversation to say, well, wait a minute, what do those things have to do with our role in the organization and what we're delivering to our customers? But because we don't have that clarity, then again, we kind of manage to that, well, let's just build something cool with technology and moving pieces, and then kind of going back to what was Homer's brother's name? But the
Herb.
episode,
Herb.
Herb. Remember the episode where like they were building a car, but they didn't have any
Yes.
vision or purpose, and he ended up with this like Frankenstein. That's
Oh,
what
it's got to have this. It's got to have
that. Why?
fins. It's got to have bubble
Because
dome.
it's cool. We have to have the bubble dome and the fins. Why? I don't know. It's just really cool. So we're Homer in the analytics practice is like, well, we need this software, and we need that, and we need to connect it with this, and we need to. Why? I don't know. Because it's really cool. And then we end up with something that nobody wants to buy.
Yeah, and that's where I start to feel like some of these tools might be becoming too complex, because they're doing the same thing. They're adding all of these features so that if you couple that with a team that doesn't understand its purpose, has no vision, then they're going to get lost in all of these new features. We got to try this new feature. We got to see what it can do.
100%. 100%. And I have to imagine this is really, 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 really hard, because otherwise everyone would be doing it. It sounds simple, hey, just talk about your role, what our purpose is. But clearly it's got to be really, really hard, because most analytics teams aren't having that conversation. But maybe just by acknowledging that we haven't had that conversation is a start.
Yeah, and I'd be curious to know how many digital analytics teams know what their purpose is. I'd really be curious to know. Just like we talked
Yeah.
about, like we've asked the question multiple times going into an engagement. Why does your company have a website?
You know what?
What
I'm
is
gonna,
the purpose?
I'm gonna ask that tomorrow on LinkedIn. My text is blowing up. I'm gonna ask that tomorrow on LinkedIn. If
Do
you're an
it, yeah.
analytics team, what is your purpose? What's your role? Do you know what it is? Do you know why you exist as a team? I'd be super curious to see what people answer.
Because yeah, I think I think even within some teams you would get different answers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just about at time. You've got some cinnamon buns or dough to go roll
Yeah,
out to
yeah.
make them.
Hopefully it turns out well. I think unless they turn out doughy, it's really hard to make a bad cinnamon roll, I think.
Yeah. Either that or if they're just too dry.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. This recipe, it's supposed to be the most soft, fluffy. Because I've done that in the past. I've made these cinnamon rolls that turn out like they're okay if you eat them within 10 minutes, but if not, they turn into like a hockey puck. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
Yeah, my mother-in-law brought me back a gluten-free cinnamon bun from a farmer's market. And it was awful. I got to be honest, because what they did was like, the problem is, and this is why I don't eat like gluten-free pastries and breads and stuff, because it's just dry.
Super heavy and like
It's
dense.
heavy and dry, and it still makes me sick.
Yeah.
Even gluten-free, I still get sick. What they did was they loaded it up with the icing to compensate,
yeah. To
hoping
cover
you
up for
wouldn't
it.
notice.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they did that so hoping you wouldn't notice how dry it was.
Yeah.
So I wish you luck with this recipe.
All right. Well, I'll let you know how it turns out.
Yep, sounds good. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and wrap up there for this week. Overall, this theme the last couple of weeks has been a lot of fun.
Agreed.
Dissecting this concept of these boring yet profitable businesses. And I come back to your part supply stores, those places that you don't even think about that you go to that are just core to what you do. But they feel they don't need to be flashy. They focus on the product. They focus on delivering a high quality product that focuses on their customers and providing a level of service that you can't get anywhere else.
They may not be the sexy brands. They may not be getting like all the headlines and people talking about them on LinkedIn or writing Forbes articles about them, but they're going to be in business for 100+ years.
Yeah, they're going to be around.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and wrap up there for now, and we'll talk to everyone later.
See ya.
See ya.